Well, there you have it. You witnessing the secondhand market as a housing market. It's crazy.
Well, sooner than later, you're going to be paying three payments of 24.99 for 12 months to get a pair of Wysocki wheels. So get ready, guys.
Welcome to USAFBL Fingerboard Podcast. I'm your host, Levine Cunningham, and I'm excited to be chatting with Keelan Wysocki. Keelan is with Wysocki Wheels and Red Wolf Fingerboards. Keelan, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I'm
Glad to be here.
definitely. I'm stoked to
Glad we
have
had
this
the.
episode.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad we could finally orchestrate this with busy lives and stuff going on.
Definitely. I think this is definitely an episode that people will definitely want to see and hear. You've been a staple, I feel like, in the industry for quite some time.
I mean, yes and no. I guess I don't see myself as that. I don't see myself as anyone important, and I'm just there enjoying myself like everyone else, and that's how I see it. Like I'm not, I go to events and people are like, "Oh my God, you're so and so." I'm like, I'm just a normal person. Like I don't think of myself like any like statuses or anything like that.
I feel like people definitely know or seen the name. They may not know the person behind it, but they've definitely probably
Hmm.
seen or heard the brand if they've been doing it long enough for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So for people that don't know who you are, I mean, let people know like where you're from, where you out of.
I'm out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I have been doing this since 2007, running a company, starting at the age of 11 or 12, or 10 or 11. Yeah, 11. And, it started from tech decks, playing with tech decks, modifying tech decks with a lighter, going on YouTube to look at videos, seeing people modify stuff, making wooden ramps, and then kind of I came across wooden fingerboards and I was like, this looks really cool. We've all seen the Brandon Jones video of making a mold. I don't even know if that's still out there, but why is an 11-year-old going to the hardware store to pick up Bondo? Well, he wants to make a fingerboard mold. So, that's what my parents did is we went, it wasn't like it was basically like, okay, why are we buying this? We're doing this because of what? Okay, whatever. It's like, okay, we're gonna let him just be creative and do his thing. So and that's I've been blessed enough with the parents that are always like accepting and like welcoming to like, oh, you have this hobby, you have that hobby. Okay, you're not out in the streets, you're not doing drugs, you know that type of stuff.
No, definitely. My first molds were from Bonda molds too. I don't know if it was the same video that I was kind of getting the information and stuff off of, but yeah, going to the car, I went to AutoZone and picked up the Auto Bondo type ordeal
Right?
and got little miniature planks of wood and kind of set it. I used a tech deck basically to try to in between it at some
Form it.
points. Yeah, so like I remember the steps, but basically you did the Bondo. I think I did like some ran wrap after like one half of it was good, and then basically set the other half, and I made like a couple molds. They were like okay, definitely like it was cheap to start it, but like I can never get it sanded properly to get the mold like where it needs to be. Like I think that if you can get a proper Bondo mold, that takes some skills.
Oh yeah, that was definitely an art in itself. Because I don't know, were your Bondo molds, were they shaped like the tech deck, like where they were round or were they square?
No, they were. I mean, it was there was
No,
no real.
as far as like the mold shape itself, was it square, like a board, like a tech deck, like being formed off of a tech deck, or was it like in a square mold like they are today? Because I recall when Brandon Jones made the video, you basically took a piece of like cereal box cardboard, wrapped it around the tech deck, taped it up, and basically poured the Bondo in there. And I don't know if it was 24 hours, 16 hours, 8 hours. It dried, you cracked it off, and you had a Bondo mold. And then I remember the biggest innovation back then was for me, it was a square mold, because if you had a Bondo mold that was the size of a 26 millimeter tech deck, you could only make 26 millimeter boards, and without mold marks being on there, the square mold was like the biggest innovation in my mind. It was like, wow, wait, what, we can do this?
You definitely Yeah, you're definitely skilled in that. I don't remember how wide it was because I used like wooden planks from like Dollar Tree. So I was able to use like a small, it was probably like literally probably 8 inches long, probably 4 inches wide. It was a big like mold. And so I theoretically
Mm.
could have probably shaved it down and made it work, but basically super generic, super experimental, I guess you would say. But yeah, definitely a
Oh
square
yeah,
mold.
for sure. It was, I don't know, it was a different time period as far as what we have now, where you can go online and just tell them the specs you want, you get the mold, and you're done. When we didn't really have that, wasn't readily available. Like you could go through a machine shop, but that's expensive.
Mhm.
Or it was make a bondo mold at home, or if you could uh, bend sheet metal, possibly bending sheet metal into the shape of a fingerboard, and then bondoing that, and that was like the next best thing. Or if you're good with carving wood, carving it out of a block of like a 2x4, some type of pine.
I've seen a couple of those, like, I don't know, like somewhere on Instagram where like he made a mold, but it was like purely out of wood.
Oh, totally. That there's totally a skill behind it, but then it's not concentric. It's not perfect. It doesn't matter how good of a craftsman you are. It's not going to be 100% like machine, like with a machine mold. It's not going to be perfect. It's cool, but
I
if you're
thought it
going
was
for
unique.
that, it was a headache for me because I tried to do it many times.
I believe it. I mean, I believe it. All right. So if you're out of the Wisconsin area, I mean, I think that there's a small scene up that way. Like,
There's about 10 to 15 people I know of in the area. Probably a good five in Milwaukee. I don't have a really good contact with everyone. There's a guy out in Watertown that just hosted an event that I sponsored called Squirrel Nut, I believe. And
yeah.
he had that event in the north part of Milwaukee, and I didn't get to make it to that, but he sent me pictures. It looked out like it turned out really cool. I know in the future I want to do more things with him, and just kind of grow the area around Milwaukee, Wisconsin in general, because there's people out there, and then there's people that don't know there are people out there. So it's kind of getting that whole word of mouth out, and come everyone just coming to Fingerboard, really.
Yeah, no, definitely. Big shout out to Squirrel Nut for sure for, getting the ball rolling and setting up a meetup out there. I know that there's, 15, 20 people that float around there just because of our Chicago tour stop. And so
Well, I
yeah,
was gonna say you were at I you remember his name? His name was Mitchell. He hosted that one in Milwaukee a couple years ago. You went to, I
yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah, with
Yeah,
Austin. Yeah,
rest in peace to him.
yeah,
It was unfortunate. I met him a month before he passed away because he and Austin came over to my house and they bought some stuff and then we were just chilling and talking and then I saw the unfortunate news that he passed away.
yeah. It was wild because he hosted the very first event that I went to. And so him and him and Outcast Fingerboards out of Indianapolis, they hosted an event on the same day. And so I went up to his event first because it started at like 11 and then ended up making the like I stayed for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then ended up driving all the way down to Indianapolis and catching the tail end of that event. And so theoretically him and Outcast kind of like sparked that flame and made to pretty much kind of host those events, but he was definitely the first one that I ever went to.
He was like, I mean, I met him once, but he was such a genuine nice dude. Like,
Yeah, it was wild when I heard about that. So I'm like, man, I just met him and I just like I haven't known him very long, but it was just like didn't see it coming. I was like, that's wild.
well, the weirdest part about it is at the time where I was living, my neighbor, Mike, we were neighbors. He calls me out. He's like, "Did you know Connor Mitchell?" And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Some kid that fingerboarded in Milwaukee." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I did." He goes, "No, unfortunately, he passed away." I'm like, "What?" Like, so I didn't even find out, from like online or anything. I found it from a neighbor that knew that I fingerboarded and did all these things, which was so bizarre in my mind too. It's just like, oh God, like, and, it was just a series of unfortunate events.
He had, or maybe it was Austin, but maybe it was Connor. He had a Black River
He's
mini
a
dose. yeah, the Black River mini dos, and did not realize how it was my very first Black River like obstacle like slash park, whatever you want to call it. But I've never seen a Black River anything until like I went to that event and then realized like how large that thing was.
Oh
Like,
yeah, I just got a 10 the 10 stair from Black River.
oh, that's
And you,
huge.
dude, it's massive. It's like it's probably like that long.
Yeah, it's like 18 inches long. Like the thing is, it's massive. It's a beast.
Did you pick one up?
No, I went to we had the collaboration of no rendezvous.
Oh, okay.
Earlier this year, Mike Snyder had one. The Black River crew came down, and I guess Mike got the very first one in the States and had the opportunity to mess around with it. And so I got to see it in person, and like the thing is absolutely massive.
I bought it. I when I saw that, I was like, I need to have that. And I don't buy. I mean, I buy a lot of Black River ramps used, but not many new anymore. But when I saw that, I was like, I have to have that. That thing looks awesome, and it is.
It's steep too. I like it. It's definitely different, and I'm glad that they came out with a different variation of their stair set. And so, but yeah, people don't realize like how big that is, because I see a lot of people like in our Facebook groups and stuff like that. They're like, man, the shipping on this thing is like expensive. And I'm like, I don't think you understand like how big this thing is.
Well, especially internationally. Like I got lucky when I saw Yuck Skate Shop down in Florida got some, and it was like $131 shipped, I think. And I'm like,
Yeah.
gone, stolen. Like it, I think from Black River it was gonna be, and it's not like it was gonna be like 70 or 60 or $70 shipping, and it was like a total of like 170 or $180, which I mean, that's what you gotta pay for. That's the day and age we live in, that's how much it costs.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, that's wild. So what made you get into fingerboarding? Like, how did your fingerboarding journey start?
Originally it was through tech decks, of course. I remember my first tech deck, I think I got it for like an Easter gift, maybe when I was like 6 or 7. Probably didn't touch it that much. I know at the time I was really into Tony Hawk games, and I played, all like Pro Skater 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know if it's spiraled. It definitely spiraled from tech decks because me and my good buddy Tommy, rest in peace, Tommy, would walk up to the target at like, he was 12 or 13 and I was 9 or 10. We'd walk a good distance to target, at least once a week and get tech decks. And, started just playing with the tech deck parts, doing that type of stuff. And like, then when I moved, I was still interested in it, and I found YouTube, found tech decks on there, found people modifying them, doing art designs. There was a guy out of California named, I think it was Alex Stoops, and he was designing like custom tech decks, painting on them, and doing reviews and all sorts of cool stuff. And I remember I used to watch his videos all the time. And being a 10 or 11-year-old kid, you don't know, I didn't know how many subscribers he had or anything like that. But it was just the repeatedly watching that, finding more people like a guy named Matt Kay used to make wooden fingerboards, mimicking those people, what they make and how they do things, and then doing it myself was a whole nother journey. Like I still have my first wooden fingerboard out somewhere around here where uh dyeing plies, I there wasn't like a guide on how to make a fingerboard. I mean, there was a video, but it was like, dyeing plies. We had to figure that all out on our own. I thought it was like a wood stain, and I got all these wood stains and stained them and glued them together and realized you can't glue stained wood together. You can't, there's not like it is today where there's let me just throw it on YouTube and say, okay, how to make a wooden fingerboard. And
Definitely. I feel like the process now is starting to become a little bit more accessible.
yeah, oh, for sure. I mean, you can get veneer locally if you've got like a woodcraft or a rockler, or you can get glues. Everything's a lot more accessible because it's bigger than it was 10, 15 years ago. There's more people involved. China, especially. China in the last 5 years has definitely kind of caught its eye because, they're making replicas of Black River trucks. They're making replicas of dynamic trucks. They're making replicas of Y trucks. They're ripping off all those products in a sense, but also I'm familiar with I don't know if did you ever vape?
I did not.
Okay. So with vaping back in like 2014, 15, 16, there were like tube mods, mech mods, and all sorts of stuff, and they'd be made like all over the world. But then it was so big, China got involved and was making clones of these products and selling them, just like fake Rolexes and all sorts of stuff. So we've reached the peak now that China's ripping us off, which in a sense is good, but it isn't. I mean, we've gotten to that status of, oh, hey, China notices us, so that's somewhat good, somewhat bad.
I feel like China's just notorious for copying things and just making
But
bootlegs. And that's not even just like
but
our industry. You're talking like, you can get it like the handbags and like, fake Jordans and Nikes and like, I
oh
mean,
yeah,
it's kind of crazy.
but 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 they have to also see money making in it too. Like if they're not going to just rip off something if they're not going to make any money. They obviously see that there's money to be made. They're saying, oh yeah, we can rip off these products and do it. It's kind of flattering, it's kind of not, but at the same time,
Yeah.
it's like if you're not being ripped off by China, you're not that big yet.
We also got to realize too that like the fingerboarding market isn't just the US. I mean,
Oh
it's a
yeah.
global thing. And so, for me, like I can only really speak on, maybe a little bit of the European market, a lot of the American market. There's stuff going on in Canada. I'm not really sure how big the scene is, in Mexico and South America and stuff like that. But there's still like a lot of global activity going on in the world that like we're not even aware of that's even happening.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah, there's people that get hit up in like Indonesia and stuff. And I'd like to say we don't have like a good, accurate representation of how big the fingerboarding market is, because I think it's a lot bigger than people anticipate. Because there's those group of people that are up like here that are like Instagram,
Mhm.
Facebook, they're in all those. Then there's like a like, okay, the top group is those people commenting, they're interacting. Then there's a subgroup of people that are online, but they're not commenting. They're just kind of like, but then there's more people below that are like isolated completely, don't know anything that's happening, but they're fingerboarding.
It's true. There's definitely layers to the participation as far as like contributing to an online scene.
Mm-hmm. Because I remember there was a guy at the event you hosted in Chicago, and he was like 40, 45. I don't know if you remember him, but like it struck my eye because my dad was helping me with the vending booth, and I looked at him. I was like, I'm not saying like tech deck whatnot, but I was like, is this like is this guy like an industry plant, like trying to figure this out and trying to see what it's all about? Because he just seemed so out of place in my eyes, like which I could have looked at it completely wrong, but he seems so out of place, and I was like, he was a really nice guy, but it's just like he, he was definitely one of those guys that was on that bottom that is slowly getting over to the second half and then go, he's gonna, he's slowly making his way, and I think it's great that he got to go to an event. It's just what I thought of. It was like it kind of threw me off guard when I was looking at this guy. I was like, it was almost like he was sent from corporate. Hey, go to this event and see what this is about. Is it worth our time?
I wish I knew who you were talking about. That's
If
wild.
we have, if we could go through some photos, I bet you I could find them or some videos.
Gotcha. Yeah, you can actually check out, and for anybody listening, like you can actually check out all of our photos from all of our events on our Facebook page at USAFBL. So go to Facebook, go to the photo albums. You can literally check out not just this year, you're talking 2021, season one, 2022, season two, 2023, season three. So you can check out all the photo albums from there.
I made it to the last two events. Like the first one I went to was in 2022. You know, that one was awesome. This year, I think this year's was better. I think I liked the venue you had. Just the atmosphere. It seemed like there was more people this year. I don't know if it was because it was a little more smaller venue.
I think the head counts was a little bit larger, but the venue for Chicago was definitely way better. We kind of talked about in previous episodes how brutal the Chicago event was for 2021 and 2022 at the hotel, just simply the
Hmm.
load in and load out
Oh yeah,
because it
terrible
was
because it was a
down in
basement.
the, yeah. And so we were literally had prior episodes where like we were literally talking about like just how absolutely brutal that load in and load out was, especially for these parks and how far of a walk it was. Absolutely nuts.
Oh yeah, we walked around that whole hotel to like we walked around the whole building, and just not to realize that we could have walked 20 feet to get down to the freight elevator, to get in.
Oh
But
no. It was
it
a good
was it
time
was
nonetheless. But yeah, I like this venue. It's a little bit smaller of a venue, but it definitely creates and kind of amplifies the vibe for sure.
yeah, because I those what were those through? What was the Knights of Columbus?
Yeah, Knights of Columbus.
I think going through them, if you can get through them, around the Midwest, the country, partnering with them, figuring out something like, hey, I'm gonna be hosting 10 events through the Knights of Columbus. Can I get, can we work something out almost? And because I think their venues are perfect for events.
Yeah, no, definitely. We've been doing that this year, just in 2023, the summer tour. Like almost all of the venues were in a veterans hall of some sort. And so we've been working with the veterans, American Legions, and basically figuring out where all the logistical stuff. I don't want to bore people with the logistics behind like, setting up venues and stuff like that for the tour. But
Honestly though, that's not a bad idea because some people don't know about those Legion halls and like that you can rent them out for weddings. You can, heck, somebody could be listening right now and say, hey, I can rent out a Legion hall for a better price, and it's actually not it's not going to like a corporate pocket. It's going into
yeah,
a
it
group of
goes to
guys that
the
that
veterans
served the
hall.
country and that did something, that benefits something in my eyes, which I would be more open to hosting an event at a Legion hall, something like that, because it's going back to the community.
Yeah, no, definitely. I just say I don't want to bore it just because we kind of spoke on it in previous episodes, but I'm definitely
Oh,
more more like would let's retouch base on that. But yeah, if you're looking to like set up an event on your own or even just a meetup, just anything, more on a smaller scale, I guess you would say, like definitely look into the American Legion halls or the Veterans Post. We did Knights of Columbus, but I want to say there's another organization and it's not coming to me. It might come to me later in this episode, but yeah, the problem is when you're looking for space, most people are looking at wedding venues, banquet halls, stuff like that, which is what I originally did in season one, which is absolutely expensive, but it also, they have everything. So like, they got your tables, chairs, all that stuff. And so it's kind of included into the price. But definitely if you're looking for a budget friendly spot, like definitely look into the veterans halls, the American Legion, stuff like that. Because, we need space, but we don't need to be comparing the space with, the likes of a wedding where, you can spend $5,000 on a wedding. We're not looking to drop $5,000 for space that, you can still host at a wedding. And so thinking outside the box, stuff like that, that's definitely, something pretty cool you guys can be doing or looking into. So pretty inexpensive, especially for some of the smaller ones as well. So you can probably get a smaller venue for a Saturday or a Sunday for literally like 300 or 400 bucks. So those are actually
oh,
pretty doable.
or even to start off even like a park. You just reserve you know, a little covered area.
Oh yeah, you can go like to a natural park or a skate park, stuff like that. Just make sure that your city, if they require a permit for you to host something there or not. That's the only thing. Because the last thing you want to do is set up an event and then realize that like a park ranger or somebody comes out there and asks if you have a permit or something like that to be hosting it.
we that they ran into that problem when Dave from Airflow Ramps was hosting he was doing the Airflow tour because he would just set up at the parks.
Yeah.
And I remember we were set up and I was selling, this was probably like 2016 or 17. I was selling at this event and Dave goes, take your prices off of the things. So because it's just so happened like a police officer came by. He's like, are you selling this stuff? I'm like, nope, not at all. Like, nope, definitely. Like, and you don't know, like, oh, if it's for sale, if it's not. Like, you just kind of want to be like, no, 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 this is just all for show, because you don't want to get anyone in trouble. It's not worth it.
No, I know. And everybody's kind of a strict, it's just the government really trying to get their money and stuff, making sure that you have your permits, and if you are selling stuff, you gotta have a retail license and blah 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 blah.
Got to buy your
So
freedoms back.
I know. So yeah, if you are doing something outside, just kind of make sure that you got all your ducks in a row as far as paperwork goes with your city, because each city, each state, does things differently. Some cities, like if you're a small town, they're like whatever. If you're in a more established city, they're like, no, you need this kind of paperwork and stuff set up. But
Hey, the IRS could come up to your kid's lemonade stand and ask for their cut. So
it's true. It's true. So definitely just be on the safe side, do your research, make sure that, if you're doing it outside in a park, definitely want to make sure you got your license and your permits and stuff in order. So like I said, some don't require it, some do. You got to kind of go with the flow, I guess. You've been making decks then for a very long time.
a
So when did
very
you
long
start?
time.
So when did Red Wolf Fingerboard start?
Red Wolf Fingerboard started in 20 or 20, I keep saying 20, 2007. And well, we're going on 16 years now. But I made
That's
decks,
insane.
right? It's insane because I get well, first I've been making decks for over the 16 years, but making a company, so I don't know if that was think I've started like beginning of 2006, end of 2006, beginning of 2007 era. But I mean, like most people are like, "Oh, well, you were 10 or 11, you didn't do that." It's like, but I did. I did. Like it wasn't good. It was horrible. It was horrible. But I did it. You know, you have to. Everyone has to start somewhere. That's like what I tell people. You know, it's like when they post on the FB Unlimited page on Facebook and they're posting their decks, and I'm just looking. They're like, "Oh, this is my first board," and I'm just like, "Wow!" Like if I'm going back to thinking when I started on when I saw people making decks, it's leaps and bounds ahead of that. Like we didn't have metal molds or 3D printed molds. We didn't have all those things.
Definitely. I feel that the new kids on the block have it way easier than the old school.
For 100% because you know I won't say we, but yeah, there is sort of like a schematic we've been writing, and you know you can ask somebody now, hey, how do you do this? They might not tell you, but somebody will tell you. I think for me, it's like when people will send me a message randomly like, oh, how do I do this? What, who like it's not like a who are you in a sense of I'm better than you. It's a who are you, like what gives you the right to ask just out of the blue, hey, how did you do this? And well, it's like the reality of it is you're not going to appreciate once I tell you how to do it. You're not going to understand how it's done. You're not going to understand the steps in the process to problem solve to fix any problems you run into. You're going to come back to me and ask. So I always think, in my mind, if you can learn how to do something yourself, you're farther ahead than anyone. You know, you might spend a lot more time, but you're farther ahead than anyone, that is currently going back and forth just asking people.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot more sense when you put it into those terms. We've
Because
kind of
people think you're gatekeeping. Oh, you're not going to tell me. No, I'm not. You Because it's like, oh, you just hold it for yourself. No, like I spent money to figure it out, but I also spent time, which is not like you can't put a price on that. Like I spent time with trial and error doing all these things, and all the information's out there, whether you have to look at it from different aspects, like machining, just everything in general. There's not like there wasn't a how to fingerboard tutorial pretty much besides Brandon Jones and molds. Like there wasn't when I started developing wheels, there wasn't somebody where I could go to and be like, how do I do this? No, it was let's start experimenting, brainstorming, and try through trial and error, figuring this out. And that's everything's been trial and error. I've had a lot of help from people as far as like advice and whatnot, but from early on stages, it wasn't like, hey, how do you make wheels or how do you nope. I got on YouTube, got on the internet, and figured it out for myself.
I feel that I've been
it
messing
it
around with decks, and we're probably once this episode drops, probably like another week or two out from probably getting our first drop of decks. And I mean, I've been working on getting to a point where I'm actually good enough to produce decks now for almost a year, maybe a year and a half. And so I actually wanted to make decks last year for the tour. And so like it goes back actually, yeah, so like a year and a half, but I've had the opportunity to come across with even with like the storefront that I used to have, like all these great brand companies, like yourself, seeing the quality and seeing like where the bar is. Like I can't just produce any, you know, type of deck. Like it's got to be of quality. And so like you guys, a lot of you OGs and stuff, you guys have raised the bar now. I feel like for anybody who's trying to come in, like you can't come in mid, you got to come in either bottom of the top tier or not at all.
right. You can't. I mean, you can start at the bottom and work your way up, and you can grow. You can do that, but you have to accept people's criticism, constructive criticism. Like that's one of the things I wish that would be more open is people to constructive criticism, because I remember being on the forums, people would criticize you. I mean, not in a bad way. It would be constructive criticism. They would tell you, hey, you should do this, do that. This will make this better, in my opinion. Nowadays, people don't want to hear any of that. Like
Yeah.
they don't want to be told, hey, you failed, or this isn't that good, or you could do better. They don't want to hear that. And that's the sad part, like the sad side of reality. Like for me, it was like it was Homewoods. Like you have to always look at other people's progress and other people's, you have to go out there and buy different wheels, different boards, and you have to see what else is out there and what the standard is and what the
Yeah,
quality is to grow.
that's greatly put, what the standard is. And so having the storefront, having a collection of all of these deck makers and stuff, just the standard is so high right now that I'm just like, what? Like, I had to literally prolong just releasing my own decks for at least 6 months because, like, I'm like, I thought it was kind of good until you start really critiquing other company brands and realizing that, like, you're close, but you're not even like there's the 20% gap between like perfection and like where I was at. I'm just like, this is crazy. But I feel like that last bit is the hardest because it's like it is all the finer details that a lot of people don't realize or even notice that like you have to do in order to make something look like that.
You will figure it out eventually. Change and evolve, but going like starting at first, you kind of don't know. Like
Been a huge learning curve, especially for myself. Like, and I've had, some people that kind of help me along the way, but I mean, you still got to put in the work and go through the trial and error and figuring out, just the whole process as a whole. And so I'm still working on a couple little things that hopefully will make my deck stand out between everybody else's. And so I don't know if I can quite release that yet, but it'll definitely be slightly different. So when you see like what I'm doing in comparison to everybody else, you'll be like, oh wow, that's a Levine deck for sure. Like it's if it's got this. And so I'm working on my
hmm
just my own little stamp on it for sure.
totally, it's got to have its like own unique touch in some sort of way, whether it's shape, size, you know, design.
Definitely, definitely. So for people that don't know that you make decks, or even people that are following you that know that you make decks, I mean, tell us a little bit about like the shapes, sizes, just like the kind of molds and stuff that you guys are producing for decks.
So we have four molds currently. We've got a regular, which is like I released that in 2012, and that is like 98, 97 millimeters long. It's got a longer wheelbase, I think 56 or 58. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but it's longer. It's kind of like what the standard was back then, the standard, length, width, shape. As far as like the mold wheelbase, because I think, you know, I see it slightly going back to that now, but it evolved uh, in that early stage to a shorter wheelbase, a smaller deck, as far as like lengthwise, because people realized you could have more control over it. You could use it easily, and then just kind of snowballed, and the wheelbase got shorter, but then decks also got wider. Like when I started, uh, I was making decks at most 32, 33. Like 33 was like super wide. But again, when I started, it was 26 millimeters, 29, 30, and then 32. And then now 32 is like the base standard. 29 is considered super small.
Yeah.
And then like 20, 26, like you see Scott over Dynamic releasing 26 millimeter trucks. That's like OG tech deck like style completely. So when I developed, uh, when I came up with the designs for each mold, I kind of looked around and what was happening in the market at the time, and also what did I like. I used the reference to Joe Dirt's Snakes and Sparklers. Like you have to sell what you like, but you also have to offer what everyone else likes if you want to be a business. So I have got the regular shape, regular short shape deep, and then the short shape, which is they were released in the order they were released was short shape, regular short shape, and then regular short shape deep, which is like a slight variance in concave between the regular short shape and the regular short shape deep. I know it's a lot to take in. The regular short shape actually looks sort of more like a traditional skateboard in a sense, and then the three regular shapes. Or the short shape looks like a traditional skateboard, like Berlin wood style, kind of sort of the boards we were producing in 2007 to 2010. Like they didn't have defined dips. It was kind of more like a flow in a sense. It wasn't, didn't have a defined dip, but the regular shapes all have kind of that, the standard looking shape to what now is, basically, I hate to say it, what everyone else is selling.
Gotcha. Are you getting it into any is it all popsicles or anything exotic?
So I do popsicles, and I can basically do any size you'd like. As far as popsicles, up to like 36 millimeters right now. But I also do like the surf shape, which is like uh an old school size board.
More cruiser
I'm doing
shaped?
yeah, I'm working on more more designs for odd shaped boards that are going to be coming out soon. When I mean soon, it's like 6 months to a year, depending on how busy I get. Because realistically, the wheels have taken over and have been like the thing on the chopping block that needs to get done and taken care of, because people are more interested in my wheels than in my boards. It's just how it is. I wish that everyone was interested in both, but the board market compared to the wheel market is way different. The board market, there's a new deck company coming out every day, literally. There's not many wheel companies and truck companies coming out. So hint for anyone wanting to start something, get into trucks or wheels or not boards, because everyone makes a board.
It's extremely saturated market for sure. And so with making decks, it is all about longevity basically. And so I see a lot of deck makers that'll pop up and then like 6 months later they're completely gone. And so I don't think people realize like you've got to stick it out. You've got to look at it as a long. I look at everything as like a 7 year plan. Most people don't have to look at it that far out, but if you don't plan on doing it for at least 2 years, like then I probably honestly wouldn't even start. I'd just do it more for you instead of more of a brand. But I mean, let's
Right.
talk about these wheels. Like the wheels is definitely what I feel like you're definitely known for. I'm not even sure people even know that you even make decks. And so the fact that like, Wysocki Wheels, I don't know how long it's been. Like how long has Wysocki Wheels been a brand and you've been doing that?
I started experimenting with wheels in 2013, 2014, and then I released Wysocki Wheels in like 2015, about. And I think you can still find photos on my Instagram, like of the early wheels. They were originally, when I originally first started making wheels, they were like quote unquote injection molded. But I mean, they were done at home at a really poor scale. They didn't, they weren't 3D printed. Uh, they were injection molded poorly. And then after learning about, how skateboard wheels are made, I would turn them individually on a lathe. Like you'll see like people turning rods and everything.
Mhm.
Like I was doing that. And that was a skill in its own. Like that's a craft. Like making consistent wheels and doing them to size time and time again. That's a skill that's difficult. Like to be consistent is difficult. That's why now all wheels are injection molded, then they're machined finished, on a CNC machine. And I've made all the jigs, fixtures, programming, everything's done in house. The injection molding's done in house. Just this year, I should say even 3 months ago, I just switched over to running everything as far as like the machining process. Everything is CNC machined. It's all concentric. It's all it. My whole goal is to make you think, wow, this is made in some massive factory somewhere, when in reality it's just made in the basement.
It's crazy you say that because I was on a live a couple of days ago, and I mean, you had a machine that was literally cutting out your fingerboard. And
Hmm.
then I've seen a couple other lives where like you're literally lathe or just basically making your wheels and stuff like in house and just kind of getting us a little glimpse of the production process of what you got going on. And I was like, man, like you're machining, like I don't know what equipment that is or whatever, but like that's definitely on a whole nother level.
Yeah. So by career choice, by trade, I'm a journeyman CNC machinist, and I went to school to learn how to, program, code, write programs, design CAD models, and do all that. And that's where, it helped my company move up and get to that next level, because while handmade goods at a certain point are great, if you want to produce something at that level, you need to automate, you need to kind of step up. And when I mean automate, I don't mean going to like CNC. Like people using like routers and router templates and stuff like that, things that are going to take the thought process out of your production time. And you know if you can make one good board, that's great. Can you do it 10 times? Can you do it 20 times? Can you do it 30? Like, can you be consistent with it? And that's one of the things. That's why I switched everything over for the wheels to CNC, because yeah, I can make one good set of wheels or 10 good sets of wheels, but the time and the effort that it takes was so overwhelming. At the end of the day, it wasn't worth the amount of time put into it. Because when you're making a product, as far as like for wheels example, the amount of times you touch that product, that that makes your bottom cost go up. So if you are making a fingerboard and you have to touch this more, you have to put more manpower into it, it costs more. Um, as far as like we I CNC cut the decks out. It's all done in program, so every time I put it on, it's consistent. There's no chance of human error involved. And that's another thing where people will come and say, "Wow, well, those, I don't know." There's like a huge gap where people are like, "Well, that's not fingerboarding. You're just doing it, or I don't know if it's like a jealousy thing or it's just something that."
I think that it is because you've got everybody else. When I say like everybody, I mean like literally everybody else is using, either a sander or a bandsaw or like myself, a router saw, and like on a routing table, whatever. And like, even for me, when I saw your CNC machine like cutting out the fingerboard, like I was kind of jealous because like I am utterly scared. I'm scared to death of this routing table saw just losing some
Oh,
fingers and stuff. I mean, it is super quick, super fast to be able to shape, your deck with the template and all that stuff. But I mean, it's like, you make one mistake, I'm losing fingers. Where like, you're just setting it on the table and letting the machine do itself. And I'm like, for me, I'm like, that's ingenious. I'm like, that's a whole nother level. Like for me, it's a safety thing. I mean, you can get hurt doing the sander stuff too, but like you're talking about a router
um,
saw, you one mistake,
you
one little
gotta,
nick, you're losing fingers.
yeah, you can see on the forums or on the Facebook pages and Instagram. Not too long ago, I want to say within the last 6 months, some dude cut his hand up pretty well. And
I remember
I
that.
I was using a router way before most people. Like I was using a router 2013, 2014. No, 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 that's wrong. 2015, 2014. I was using a router and most people weren't. Like, it was kind of like a hush hush, like it was definitely stored away in the box of tricks and secrets. Like, don't tell people you're using that, because that's your step up. That's where it's like, hey, you discovered something. I don't know how to put it. The best way to put it is I was using them so long, but I never once put my hands near that thing. I made a jig or a fixture. No, it'd be a jig to hold it, to go around it, and my hands were a good maybe 36 inches away, roughly, from that oscillating bit spinning at 5 to 10,000 RPM.
Yeah.
That will rip your finger to shreds. And like seeing Instagram reels of people doing that, I just shake my head. And I told people, like, don't be. Can I swear on here?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Don't be stupid and put your fingers in the near a router, because it's not worth it. It's a fingerboard. What are you gonna do when you don't have fingers? It is
Yeah,
like the
that's my
most
fear.
frustrating thing. And then there's the other thing. It's like, if you're not if you're hitting it on the wrong angle, it's gonna it's gonna whip out and it's gonna fly out from it. And that's how people cut themselves, is because they hit it at the wrong angle where the bit is spinning one way and you're pushing it another way. Or if you're going with it, I can't remember exactly. It's milling. It's called climb milling versus conventional milling, and depending on which way you're doing it, it's going to cause the part to fly out,
Yeah.
and that's where it gets dangerous. Of course, if you have your hands there, I mean, I've had it. grab my jig and rip and pull. And thankfully my hands weren't near it at the time. And
Definitely.
it's just like, well, I don't want to put my, I don't want to do that. It's like, take that extra step. There's so many different jigs and fixtures that people are using, copy theirs, do something like it. This is like when Volvo in 1959 released the 3-point harness safety belt. It was released to everyone. I mean, I'm not going to go out there and say, oh, hey, this is how you should make it, but maybe I should, because I just don't want people to be careless and get themselves hurt at the end of the day. Like,
No, I feel that. I mean, like I said, when I saw the live, just with the C machine just kind of doing all the work, I was just like, man, like that's ingenious. That's a step up and consistency. And so, you're making a consistent deck every single time. And so I'm like, this is next level stuff for sure. Like I feel like you're
yeah,
definitely ahead of the par, like ahead of the game for sure.
there's a few other companies that do it that haven't like posted it. Like, I've had a few people comment like, "Oh, so and so." I think Yellowwood's been doing it for a while. Uh, I know Berlinwood doesn't do it. They do a different whole. They machine decks with a in a different like sort of like in a router template style, but theirs is a little bit more complicated. Uh it's it's an old way of machining. Like they put in like templates on the back, and then there's something that traces it, and whatever it's really complicated to explain over a video. But if you find on YouTube, like it's through Vice. They did a video about skateboards, and they went through Black River's whole thing, and you see that there's I think it's Martin Winkler. No, not Martin Winkler. Martin, the guy that owns Black River, was shaping
Yeah.
a Berlinwood, and you're kind of like, oh, the tool just drops down and it goes around. Well, I didn't know it wasn't. After asking around a few older machinists, it's to do just that. It's a special machine designed to do production. So like you're gonna do 1,000 of these, it's gonna do it. It's the same thing as CNC, but you got to do it manually, and it runs
Oh,
on like templates. It's a really
interesting.
old process. Yeah, I just want everyone to be safe and be careful. Don't risk your fingers or your eyesight, or take that extra step for safety.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's something that has become pretty clear really early on. I'm just like, man, like if I've been actually been kind of looking at trying to get away from the table router saw just
Yeah,
because of that. It's so fast and so efficient, but I'm like, man, like you can mess up and literally like your fingerboarding career is done. Like,
right. I mean, CNC cutting parts out is nothing new at all. They do that in every industry for whatever the part is. The idea I got like from to do that was from his name is Professor something. He runs a big skateboard factory down in Mexico, and he produces skateboards for like Street Plants, I think even like Revive. Like he's a skateboard factory. Like he runs a skateboard factory. His name is are you familiar with who I'm talking about?
I am
He
not.
is Professor. He follows me on Instagram. It's Professor Schmidt, and he runs PSSI or TIX. He runs a, like, if you can see it, a skateboard
Hmm.
factory, and they produce skateboards in Mexico. He lives in California, and
Huh.
like that was sort of my inspiration. Like watching those videos. I mean, and being in the career field I'm in, I'm saying I can do that. I know how I can do that at a smaller scale, and it's not really difficult. I mean, it's difficult to the outsider that's not familiar with anything, but for someone who is, it's like, oh, that's simple, because a lot of a lot of the way a lot of things are produced similar as far as like products. They're produced
Yeah,
similar
just
but different, and you
larger.
just have to, yeah, you just have to figure out your way of, okay, how do I machine it this way, or how do I produce it this way, or how is it injection molded, and how is it done in a specific way, where I might be seeing like a good show to watch is how it's made, and see them using all sorts of animated machines or
Even
automated machines.
skateboards are CNC'd, and so I can't remember what company I saw that were literally cutting out skateboards out of huge planks, whatever. But giant
That's
machine
that's
comes in and does all that, and I was like, oh, and so he
that's
just shrunk it
the
down.
the exact same thing, yeah. And that's what the Professor Schmidt guy, he I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, by the way. I saw it from him, and I was like, "Yep, I gotta figure out my way. Gotta figure out how to shrink it down."
So, man, people don't. I don't know if people who are listening, but your wheels are. I mean, we're talking about how they're basically made, but I mean, they're fire. They are literally my second favorite wheels on the market for
What is your
personal
first?
use.
What is your
And
first favorite?
I'm gonna get some hate for this because there's so many great wheels out there, and I'm using abstracts. That is my
No,
personal
no.
favorite.
Here's the thing, though. I support Jordan 100%. Jordan is. I talk to Jordan a lot. Jordan's a good dude. I've been friends with him for 12 years now. I think since 2010, 12, 13 years. Awesome guy. Like when I hear that, it's like, okay, awesome, great, cool. Like I'm looking at it from a standpoint is how can I win you over now? How can I like what is it that you're looking for that I can do to improve my product? And you know, at the end of the day, though, it's not like a competition between who is who, and it's like I don't see like companies as competition. I see it as a preference. It's like, well, what can I offer to make you like my product as much as you like their product? Because Jordan makes phenomenal wheels.
And he does. I mean, you guys make absolutely phenomenal wheels. I think that it's more just a feel for me because I ride
Hmm.
pri it depends on what you skate on. And so if I only skated on, all my Black River Park stuff like that, then I would say Wysocki all the way. But if you do like a little bit of outdoor indoor, then that's where I'm like, all right, abstracts is definitely like my ordeal. And so it's mainly like what you're and so like I don't know, like if you talk to like people like Gary Graves, stuff like that, they ride outside a lot, and I'm not really so much of an outside skater. And so different wheels function differently on different surfaces, stuff like that. And so you got to take that into account and effects whenever you're looking at wheels. But the quality and stuff like you guys got going on are absolutely impeccable.
Oh, for sure. Like, the hardness, different hardnesses have a different effect. Like wood, cement. I I'm I've been working on a slightly softer material to like bridge that gap, but it's not quite ready yet. There's so much going into it where I'm not gonna release something where bearing slip happens with every brand, but when you have a softer material, it happens all the time. Like I'm trying to figure out that inevitable, like, okay, how do we prevent this? Because I have a warranty on my wheels. I back them all for life, even if you didn't originally purchase them from me. And this is where I'm gonna get a bunch of DMs after this, is where it's like, oh, I bought these. I warranty them in a specific way where you send them back to me. I'll send you brand new ones. You just got to pay you got to pay the shipping to get them to me. I'll send you out new wheels. There's different criterias, of course, but 99% of the time it's like, oh, okay, yeah, send me the wheels back. I'll send you a brand new set.
But that's one of the things that I love about you as well is that you're basically providing those lifetime warranties. And I mean, I've got two setups that have your wheels and stuff on them for a little over 2 years now. They still function brand new. And so one of the things I look at too is like just the longevity of wheels. And so I don't like to switch setups a lot. So like when I have a setup, like I run that thing into the ground, and like abstracts, Wasaki's, those wheels last forever and they feel practically brand new even after a year or two of solid shredding. And so I absolutely love the fact that you guys have high quality, long lasting products.
Right, and I think that's one thing I wanted to touch base on, because when we were at the Chicago event, I actually was approached by it. People will look at a fingerboard wheel and be like, well, does it have that free spin? The idea, and this was after speaking to a bearing manufacturer, and this is going to shake people because they're gonna be like, well, what, oh, I think it's what is it considered? ABEC nines.
Hmm.
People will market it as that. There's no such thing for a scale bearing that size. And this isn't coming from me. This is coming from multiple manufacturers talking to them where they're like, no, we can't even, the best we can make are like sevens. And those are stupid hard. We're talking bearings that are shit. I don't even know. They're
They're
tiny.
tiny,
Like
yeah.
the ball bearings are so small. It's like the higher number, they're faster. It's more so uh with use. Your wheels will spin more with use. Like if they're lubricated properly at the beginning. Like I don't know if did how much did you skateboard growing up?
I didn't skateboard at all. I'm kind of a poser when it comes to that respect.
Well, no, that's fair to admit. But when you got a pair of like when I remember getting a new pair of skateboard wheels, the wheels didn't spin as fast, and be, the reason behind that is because there was they were lubricated. They don't have that much free spin, so when there's more free spin, there's less lubrication inside the bearing, which eventually is going to cause a failure. So I guess what I'm getting down to the bottom line is free free spin is great, but at the end of the day, it's almost like riding on a dry wheel. Like they're prone more to break. And I know, I know for a fact, No Comply, Fingerboard, shout out to Todd, uh, Jordan Redemption, and I think a few other people. We all use the same supplier for bearings. You know, we that's one of the things, and I'm not. We all use the same supplier for the bearings, and because they're that good, like at the end of the day, it's like we help people, we help each other out, with advice, how to do things. We're separate companies, but we still, help each other out in that sense.
No, that's awesome that you guys do that. I feel that you guys can grow and just become better so much faster when you guys kind of work together like that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's like it's like saying, "Oh, I want to be the only one to succeed." No, I want to see everyone succeed. I want to see you succeed in your own way. I want to see you get to that point of, I want to be clapping right on the sidelines with you. I'm not, it's not like I'm against you. This isn't a fight. Not dropping any shade on Joey Colt. I mean, past Joey Colt, not anymore because we're over that. But there's really no like we're all in this for the same reasons. It's fingerboarding, not war.
No, definitely. It's I look at it the same way, mainly because I look at the industry as a whole, but it's people kind of have that whole like me versus you mentality when
No.
it's not the case and has never been the case. It's literally making the best product that you can with your own version of you included in it, some way, shape, or form. And I think that's people focus on basically just becoming the best version of themselves with a product that
Hmm.
represents that. I mean, that's the overall goal. There's so much space. There's actually not enough like manufacturers, like brands and stuff in our or like in the industry as a whole. And people don't even understand that. Like we
No,
do
yeah, they
have a
don't.
lot of like fingerboarding brands, but there's not enough fingerboarding brands that are producing volume. Like most shops are doing drops. Not a lot of shops are open 24/7 every single day, and so like there's just a lack of, and so it's never been a you versus me kind of like mentality. It's just there's so much space and there's actually not enough space for that mentality. Like just there's more fingerboarders than there is product.
Everyone finds what they like. They find their preference. So what people like if you want to call them hype brands or you want to call them like successful brands, like if you look at like Beast Pants, for example, Chris has a whole Chris has his marketing down. He's got his representation down. He has a whole he has characters based around his whole company. Like it's not, he has a format that he goes on and he runs by. Like I don't know if I've seen him this year, but he has like almost animations done for his thing, and then there's much more behind it than just fingerboarding. That's what I'm getting at is marketing yourself is one thing, but then having a good product is one thing, but then just marketing it in a way that's going to appeal to people or grab someone's attention is another thing. And that's you can have a horrible product, and if you market it great, people are going to buy it. I do most of my wholesaling, or I shouldn't say wholesale. I do most of my I sell decks and wheels through my site, but a lot of my stuff now is sold through other people. Like I sell through Chems down in Southern Illinois. I sell through Abducted Fingerboards in Australia, ASI in Germany, Yuck Skate Shop. Well, oh, I have a list. I wrote down a
Yeah,
list of
let's throw out the distribution list. I love it.
not like completely a whole distribution list. Like there's wheels going, probably should be there by now. I sell through six skates in Canada. I think it's Zeg's Head in Nashville, Tennessee, I believe.
Chattanooga-ish, but yeah.
Okay. Fingerspace Co. I said ASI already here. I'll just look at who we've got. Yeah, Yuck, Good Vibes, Six Skates, Zeg Heads Shop. I'm selling to there's there's some stuff going to, I think it's Japan or China. I can't remember the name of their shop. I'm more so into the, time wise. I have a 1 year old son. I work 40 hours a week and then I do this. Like I'm more so shifting into the distribution side of things just because I don't have the time to get my wheels out to everyone. I don't have the time is so valuable. I don't have that time. I wish I did to ship orders and do those things that are necessary. Like in a sense, I used to not believe in distribution. I used to believe in selling through myself, but distribution alone just helps the community grow in general. Because if you're gonna support a distribution like Chems, which if you're in the US, I would 100% recommend going to him. He sells Black River stuff. He makes excellent decks. He sells a wide range of products, and he ships pretty fast. If you're in that aspect of you don't know what you're doing or you don't have an idea as far as like I think they're ill are they called ill pills?
Yeah, ill bills.
Those are mostly sold through distributors. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
they're in the Philippines.
Yeah.
You kind of got to look at it like that. Like, it's not really logical for them to, because they're gonna 90%, 99% of their business is going to be outside of the Philippines, I bet.
Hmm.
I mean, for me, it's a little different. I don't know, their thing, but if you have a product and you think it's good, I would start hitting up distributors like, hey, this is what I've got. It's not well known right now. Hey, can you help me? And then they're more than willing to help you if it's good. If it's gonna help you guys both out. It's like the best thing to do in my mind.
That's always kind of been my motto, and a lot of people may not even know this, but getting your product out to as many people as possible is the game plan. Whether you make money on that or not is a whole different conversation, but getting it out, I sponsor so many events, not because I mean, I do it because I want to grow the industry. I want to grow the community. I love events. I'm a huge event host, holder. Like, people who are obviously familiar with me, like events is definitely what I specialize in. But it's like in order for me to get my brand out super, super fast, sponsor events, get that product out there, get that brand out there. A lot of people don't realize like they throw your logo on their flyer. And so it's just branding. And so a lot of people are like, thinking like, oh, I've got this deck company or wheel company or whatever, and I'm just going to try to sell every single product by myself, not realizing that like you can only get your product out as fast as you can sell it. Where if you're literally giving away your product for great causes, getting your brand out there, like it speeds up that process. And so
100%.
people also kind of need to realize like, making money is great, but in the beginning, like you just got to get your product out like everywhere. And so sponsor events, do giveaways, I mean, just get that product out there. And if it's quality, people are gonna be like, dude, this thing is busting. Like, I need another deck or another wheel or whatever it is that you're producing. Like, I need more of that. And then people will come to you specifically to go buy those products.
Word of mouth is the best marketing is word of mouth. It sells more than anything. Advertisements, because they generally say you have to see something 3 times before you purchase it.
Traditionally, yeah,
Word of
that's
mouth.
accurate.
I've
That's
had
definitely
I've had more people contact me since I've been distributing through Chems, I think for 2 years now. And I've had more people contact me like, oh my God, I love your wheels. I'm like, where'd you get them from? Because I always ask, where'd you get them? Where'd you get them from? Because you got them from me, you got them from them. It's like, oh, I got them from Chems. I'm like, awesome, great. How do you like them? What do you think about them? Is there anything I should improve on them? That's my biggest thing. Is like, I'm not afraid of the constructive criticism. If there's something more that you'd like the newest thing about my wheels is they're hiding the lock nut. Like people didn't like the lock nut being shown. So I designed a whole new wheel that hides the lock nut. It's still a center set bearing but the lock nut's hidden now, so people don't see that. They don't like land primo on it, or you
Those are the
know,
worst. Is the Primo with the lock nut digging into your obstacle or something like that. And so
right. It's the feedback I got over the past 3 years. It was like, I really like your wheels, but I want the lock nut hidden.
that's not even something I even thought about, honestly. That's crazy. So yeah, like construction criticism has always been something that's people just need to, try to separate their it's hard because your
Separate
product
your
is your baby.
feelings.
Yeah, because it's like, someone talking about your kids. And so like no one wants, to talk about your kids, even if it's construction criticism, whatever, my kids are perfect, with their angels, but
No.
that's not always the case. But no, construction criticism is definitely something that people have to figure out how to handle emotionally and mentally, and
Oh
failure
yeah,
is part of the
it's
process. A lot of people don't realize like failure is literally part of the process.
if you're not, I don't care like who it is. Like there are some companies you'll see out there that you think just sprung out of nowhere. Like, oh my God, they had instant success. Well, you don't realize they used to be called something else before. Like you didn't realize that they rebranded and they went back and they took that constructive criticism and they're doing great now. Like
Mm-hmm.
one of the companies that rebranded just off the top of my head, and I could think of, I don't remember his old name, but Catfish Barbecue.
Oh,
He
gotcha.
rebranded. He rebranded as someone else. Well, he was somebody else before, and then he rebranded to Catfish, and he's got a great marketing system there, and he does. Vlad does amazing things. Uh,
Milk Dex is one for me. Milk
yeah,
rebranded. It used to
yeah. As you
be
say, you don't want to say the old name, but
yeah, it's a little vulgar, but yeah, Milk Dex rebranded, and like he's thriving.
Michael, dude, I not lately, but I used to talk to Michael all the time. Like Michael's one of the homies. Like he's awesome. Like
Yeah.
I vibe with that guy. Like he is the straight up like I took constructive criticism. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. Dude, super nice. He's just a genuine human being.
No, definitely. We still chit chat on a regular basis and stuff. He's just an overall good dude. Tell people the styles, shapes, sizes of the wheels and stuff that you got going on.
So currently, I sell the newest skate wide shape is so the old one was like 4 point, and that's the other thing. Okay, all the new wheels are CNC finished. They're all they're all concentric. I wanted to step back and say, okay, how do I want these to look? How do I want the finished product to look? And I was able to do that with all my knowledge and my skills with CAD and design and everything. The old wheels were like 4.8 millimeters wide. The new ones are 5.2. They hide the lock nut. I sell two sizes in I think 7.5 millimeters, and then I sell a 6.9 millimeter, which is exclusively only sold right now through my site. So that's kind of like the one up I have versus like distributors will get 7.5 all day currently, and then in the future maybe, but right now producing the and I'll pull some out. Producing the smaller wheels is a little bit
Mm,
trickier because you only have so much material to work with and injection molding them and so on and so forth. It's a difficult process.
yeah, I can only
So right
imagine.
now, they're the same exact like shape and shape design, but they're just one's 6.9 and the other's 7.5.
Gotcha. Yeah, the 7.5s is what I've been rocking. That's the only ones. I wasn't sure if you had any others. That's why I was asking. So that's interesting to
It,
hear.
I mean, 7.5 is pretty standard now. If you look like uh, some wheels are 8. Some people like it's like the perfect medium because some people don't like 8 millimeter or big wheels. They don't like bowl size wheels. Like 7.5 seems to be like the standard.
Yeah, that's what I'm pretty much kind of realizing now that you pointed that out. The 7.5 is definitely a kind of a standard across the board, across almost all companies. Gotcha. So is it only just like the street style or
Right now it's only the street style. I'm working on a Christmas, spring. It just depends on my feelings of it. Like I've got some designs I'm gonna have proofed. I'm gonna get 3D prints done of them just to see them in person and see if I like them, and then go into pre-production if that's something I like. I mean, I don't. That's another thing to offer is you don't want to offer too much variation to people. Anyone listening that's looking for that, you don't offer too much variation because once you give them options, then you're expanding your production, and then you become unprofitable. Like you might be sitting on a bunch of 8 millimeter wheels when people are buying 7.5s, or I don't want to release too many designs and then be like left with overstock or things not selling, or if you offer less, I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen you ever did you ever watch SpongeBob?
Yeah, yeah, I think everybody has.
What's his name? Mr. Krabs' daughter was running the Krusty Krab, and like they offered like water, tea, and salad. Like there were simple things. Like the more simplistic you make your product, the better it's gonna sell. Because like I've spoken with Bailey at Blister. Shout out to
Yeah,
Bailey.
yeah.
And I remember when he was making custom wheels, I just sent him a DM. I was like, dude, you got once you don't because I used to make custom wheels. I used to do all that, and I noticed a big decline after making it because people were like, "Well, I want this custom wheel or this custom deck." When you offer that to people and then you give them back the standard option, it really kind of like, well, I can't have it custom how I want it anymore. Like, if you can keep up, if you have the ability to do that, that's great. But offering a product that is production at a custom level doesn't really, benefit the producer that much.
No, I've known a few people that started off doing customs and then realized that doing a custom order typically takes up two, sometimes three times more time than it would if he was to make a standard order of whatever product that is. And so people do customs to get their foot in the door and then quickly realize that doing customs isn't sustainable because of the amount of time that it takes to produce that single order.
Right. I mean, custom decks are one thing. Like if you just want custom plies, I've thought about bringing that back because I used to do that like really big. Like that was my one of my things because at the time when I was mentoring with Justin from Homewood, he was doing custom plies and stuff like that. But it, at the end of the day, it sells a product, but there is a lot more legwork behind it, and time is everything. People want things the next day, thanks to old Jeff Bezos. They want things the same day. They don't want to wait 2 weeks, And my goal is realistically, how fast can I get this into your hand? How fast can you get this? And people don't have patience.
Yeah, I definitely see that a lot in the Facebook groups and stuff like that. A guy won't ship out an order for 2 or 3 days and they screaming bloody murder because he
I just
purchased
ordered this.
something and I just ordered this and I don't see a tracking number. It's been 2 days, blah blah blah. And it's just like, hold on, guy, like hold on, just give it some time.
Or my favorite one is I just ordered from so and so, and they haven't said anything, and it's like, well, when did you order? About an hour ago. Well, this this isn't Amazon. This isn't big business,
Yeah, I
mom and
wish
pop.
that that wasn't the case, but I mean, the reality is that these things take time, and we all have lives and families and day jobs and stuff like that. And sometimes, if you place it in the morning and guy doesn't get home till nighttime to see that order, like it could be a whole 2 days for him to process it and get it out the door. And so people don't just understand that, like, we're not sitting here like literally waiting for your order to come through so that we can specifically cater to each individual customer. And so scheduling and stuff like that sometimes it just conflicts and it's literally 2 days to get it out the door, whatever it is, stuff like that. And so, but I wish it wasn't I wish it was like, I can just put it on Prime and just be like, I got it tomorrow, tonight, whatever.
Right. That would be nice. It would be nice, but then again, it'd be just like doing customs. You get behind on it. I think we were speaking earlier. Like if fingerboarding was on the level of Pokemon cards, Magic the Gathering. I mean, that's big, but it's not even that big. Like
Yeah.
if the scale and the volume of people involved was much more, you would have that fast shipping. You would have that demand. If the demand was there, where every company was beyond even dropping stocks, but constantly producing boards and selling boards, and if everyone, if let's just say 20% of the market was doing that, because we don't really have an idea of how big the fingerboard market is. If 20% was running at that scale, you would have next day shipping, same day shipping. You would have it would be completely different. It would be a completely different industry.
Yeah,
I
no,
think there would
definitely.
be a lot more. There would be a lot more professionals. There would be more events. There would be. You might be thinking to yourself right now, well, why is he saying this? Well, because there's a big concept in fingerboarding where people believe like, well, you're just doing this for the money. Do you go to the store and just take things off the shelf and go home? Do you like? I remember very early on people being like, well, you just do this for money. You just do. It's like, no, I do it because I enjoy it. The benefit is the money. That is the benefit. Because there, for 99% of companies, there is no, you're not buying houses. You're not, you're bare, David from Airflow Reels described it best. You're basically just getting a little bit of beer money. You're basically getting a little bit of side cash. You're basically, just so you can get a little bit of step ahead in this in this world. You're not making $50,000 a month or even a year. You're not even making, maybe most you're making five, maybe you're making 10, smaller companies, but you're not out here buying Ferraris and Lambos. It's it's
I
literally
know.
like,
It's
hey,
crazy.
I enjoy doing this. It's not for the money.
Yeah.
Because if it was for the money, I wouldn't be doing this because there is no money. It's a simple passion.
Definitely. I think that anybody who's been doing this for any prolonged period of time will pretty much agree. This is definitely passion projects. These are, I mean, if you can get to a point where it's sustainable, I mean, you're definitely winning in the game. And if you can get it to a point where, you're making a little, little pocket change on the side as well, I mean, you're doing pretty good. But
And then
to come
that's
in
that's
thinking
the
that like you can, this is what you can do, or you can, buy houses and cars and a lavish lifestyle off of it. It's not even close to being the case.
right. I mean, there's many more businesses you can get into where you're going to be more successful and have, you know, you're,
Yeah,
you're
the
going to be
odds,
making good
and
money.
yeah, because people kind of came at me when I first came out saying that, I'm definitely a cash grab, this, whatever. And I'm just like, there's a million other industries where like if you wanted to make money that like you can literally go and make money with almost 100% certainty. But to get
Right.
into the fingerboarding industry talking about, oh, we're gonna cash grab, we're gonna cash that, or just out there just trying to get it all. And I'm like, you're talking about like a very low percentage of margin to even be able to pull
Ooh,
something like that off. Like, especially in this day and age, like almost everybody can see that stuff from a mile away.
right. And I think that's where I differ from people because people don't like touching on those hot topics. They don't like. I'll just go right for them. Like, there's not really money. There is none. You know, it's all passion driven, and it's what I enjoy doing. It's a topic people don't want to touch on because they will get looked at, and then people will like, oh, well, he does do it for the money, or why? I, I don't benefit from warranting my wheels at all. The customer benefits. Like you have a warranty. Like yeah, it's just you could write it off on taxes, but there's no benefit for it for me for it. There's really not.
Yeah, no, I agree. I
I
agree
mean, the
100%.
benefit the benefit is that I back my product because I can tell you there's many other wheel companies out there that hey, you broke your wheels, tough shit, go buy another pair.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
see it
believe
all the time in the industry too. It's kind of crazy.
I don't. That's one of the things like I'm not going to pronounce it right. It's called planned obsolescence or planned. Basically, where you designed a product to fail after 5, 10 years or 6 months. You design your product to fail, and I don't believe in that. I don't believe in designing my product to fail on you. So if it does fail on you, I'm going to warranty it, and I'm going to say, hey, here's a fresh one. I'd rather sell 10 sets of wheels a year versus 100 and then have those 10 great customers constantly buying from me versus 100 customers buying from me once.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, what would be some of the struggles then of running a board company and a wheel company?
Time, managing the time, uh, suffering relationships, family time, time is everything. Time, you know, you can't put a price on time. You don't know how much time you have left. And doing this is like, yeah, it's a passion, but it's taking away from family, friends, those things. It's what I like. It's at the end of the day, everything's where do you want to put all your effort? You want to be a family man? Do you want to be that person that has a successful business? Because I guarantee you, if you look at a millionaire, bet you there's some point of his life where he's got to struggle at, where he's looking at someone else saying, "Damn, that guy has a really good family." But then you look at the guy that has a really good family and a really good home life. Maybe he's not doing so well financially. Like you can't juggle it all. You can't do it all. And it's accepting that you can't do it all. And do the best you can. Do more than the guy looking, do a little bit more a day than the person below you, and you're always gonna be there.
Well, there's a weird saying in the just day trading investment like lifestyle. Like, if you have time, then you don't have money. If you have money, you don't have time. But if you have both, you manage to have retirement. And
Hmm.
so even when you look at people like, Jeff Bezos, he's like, oh, he's got all this money, but he doesn't have time and he can't retire because he still has to require to input his time to continue to make the money.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate thing. Like the only scenario where that, I mean, it never works because you can be a lottery winner and you have all the money, but then you have people that, people come out of the woodwork. It's a demise, really. Like
Yeah.
people strive for that like perfect lifestyle, that perfect everything, and it's not possible.
And so I think people kind of got to look at it as like time passes either way. And so you have to figure out how
How
do
you
you
want to
want to
spend
be
that
spending your
time?
time? And
Yeah,
so, and a lot of people kind of came at me was like, dude, you've blown pretty much your entire life savings for fingerboarding and like the tour and stuff. And I'm looking at it like, when I look back at it, there's not really anything that I would replace it with. Like, you can't, and even today's day, like, you can't spend it and like have anything. Like, I might buy a car or I might be able to get a cheap condo, but I'm like, that's literally it. And would I trade like a condo over the last 3 years of my life, or what have we been doing? And like, the answer is like, no, I would still want to do the fingerboarding and bringing that joy and stuff to so many people's lives. And so, like, when you look at it, it's like, what do you want to do with your money? What do you want to do with your time? And so that money will go either way. Whether you spend it, save it, whatever, it's going to disappear at some point,
right.
whether it's
I mean, I because
inflation or just whatever. But I mean, it's what do you want to do with it?
right. I mean, because I know for a fact, like with your situation, you could have easily thrown that in an account and just lived off of that probably for the rest of your life. Just off of the dividends and off of all that. Like you could have lived a comfortable lifestyle, but
For five
what you
years,
chose.
6 years,
Yeah,
that's like it. But I mean, inflation would have ate it. I mean, it would have ate it all. And so it's nuts. And so when I look back at it, I mean, you could buy a house for 200 grand, 3 4 years ago, no problems. Now that same house is 400 500,000. So like, it doesn't even, like, it just goes away. But either way, I mean, you're still looking at it as, what do you want to do with your money? What do you want to do with your time? And making sure that, like, you're deciding how to productively and efficiently like manage all that. And I think people kind of got to kind of take a step back and realize, is this worth this? Is this something I want to do? Is there a better use of my time? And like, because people don't kind of take that stuff in accountability.
I think I don't know. We didn't have it down as a topic, but I think that's one of the things I wanted to jump into is people's pricing on products. Because if you look in the last 10 years, the board prices were anywhere from like 10 years ago they were like $20 to $30. Now they're $25 to $45. And in reality, people should be glad because I mean, just looking at the housing market, we didn't go up 20, 30% or 40%. We didn't really get affected too much because we are not privileged enough to be affected to where we can be like, well, yeah, we gotta increase prices 25% because of the way the market is. Like, I don't see, there are deck companies out there that sell decks for 100, 200, $300. I mean, that's all preference. If there's my what I'm getting at is sometimes you pay for a good product and sometimes you just pay for the idea behind the product, or I don't want to say the hype, but the idea behind it. Generally you can get a good deck for 25 to $50. Anything over 55, $60, you're paying for
Paying for
art
the name,
design.
yeah, you're paying
Yeah,
for
art
some exterior
design.
value, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, should you expect to get that back? Because it seems like people buy products, whether it's like from large drops, just to simply resell. And I'm like, you spent all that time to make 20 or $30 total? Like, I guess I personally don't see it as a value. Like, and then it's like I don't know. It's like card collecting. It's like certain cards are worth more, and that's kind of what we seem to have gotten to with fingerboards in a sense.
I don't know if I truly agree with the whole like buying things specifically just to resell it on the secondary market.
Oh, I don't I don't agree with it. I mean, I think that's why you do see companies like raising their prices because it's like, well, if I sell it for $40 and then it's sold for 70 or 80, I'm just gonna sell them for 75, so they make less, which that makes sense. Like being, that then there's the people that say, well, you don't support the secondary market. Well, why? I mean, it is like the secondary market in
It
my
doesn't
eyes.
actually support the actual artist or the craftsman.
Exactly.
And so whoever produces that product doesn't benefit at all from the secondary market. And I know that this is an actual issue with several, fingerboarding company owners and stuff. They're just like, hey, I'm selling a product for, $40, and they're going around and they're selling it on eBay for, 80, $90. And so like, how does that like he doesn't, the owner of the company who made the product doesn't actually get that 80, $90 like hit like the secondary market does. And so you get people that are upset because, and it's definitely a controversial subject, but like there's people in the secondary market that are making more money off of a product that they didn't even make than the actual person who produced the product to begin with, which is kind of crazy.
I mean, I don't know the sneaker market that well. Like I don't follow shoes or anything, but I think just from like the little bit I've seen, that's kind of how they've kind of taken it back, where Nike does like a limited drop of 100 pairs of shoes at this price. And yeah, they do end up selling for more because there's 100 and they're limited, but that's how they kind of common like they fight the price wars because it's like, well, if somebody's going to be willing to pay $500 for a pair of shoes, then okay, they can sell them for 1,000 or they can sell them for 750. Or you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
if you're going to pay if I'm going to sell you a product at a certain price and then you're going to sell it for another price to make more money, oh, I want to make that amount of money, and then you can do whatever you want with it. Like
Yeah.
it's almost like you have to price yourself out to a certain point where with when the secondary market hits the second time versus selling your board at 40 versus where you sell it at 60, and then the secondary market sells it at you know 90 or 100, people look at it more like, well, I guess I'll just go pay 60 for it. And the example where I see that is lab wheels. Like lab wheels are like lab wheels from Russia, not from Todd's. uh Lab wheels are great, they're great wheels. I don't know how much he sells them for personally,
I've,
but I see him go for,
I've seen the
you know
secondary market getting kind of crazy. I've actually never had I guess I just never sought after them. I've felt them before, like a lot of my events and stuff. Like lab wheels are pretty popular, but I've never actually went out and purchased a pair.
I don't know what the conversion is from Russia and whatnot. But
Yeah,
I
I'm not
mean,
sure.
secondary market unopened, they go for like 70, $75. I don't know if they retail for 60, whatever,
I'm not sure, but I'm also not sure if they're taking in the effect of like, the shipping
shipping.
cost and
I think
stuff.
that's what I think that's what half of it is.
And
Half of
so,
it
I
is
mean, if it's a $40 set of wheels, but it costs $30 for me to get it here because of shipping, a lot of people will argue, and I've seen this in like, the Facebook groups and stuff like that. And it's like, shipping shouldn't be added into the cost of the wheel, even though you can't get the wheel any other way. And so that's kind of a controversial subject as well. Like, when you're pricing out the secondary market, are you including the cost of shipping, or are you just looking at it for what the actual wheel is for?
right. Yeah, I remember when I think I sold a pair of lab wheels. It was like $70, and then they're like, I sold them, and I'm like, well, there's plus shipping. He's like, no, no, that's shipped. I'm like, whatever. Like you can okay. Like now I know. That's the thing. It's like, I mean, international shipping roughly is like $15 to $16. So you take, you take that $55 set of wheels and you add 15, you're $70 already. So they're just trying to get their initial investment back.
Yeah.
Like I guess looking at it from a standpoint now is like I don't know if some of those products, at least like the ones made in foreign countries, I don't know even know if, are we seeing them from a standpoint of they're being hyped up because they cost more to us? or are we just seeing actually what it costs them to get it and they just want to recuperate their money? Which at that point, I don't see why if you're buying lab wheels to resell, or besides the fact that if you like them, or you know, if you're out there trying to make a buck off of the secondhand market, do as you please. But
It's
what's 20
hard,
or
it's
30 bucks,
complicated. And then you get things
right?
like that are way more expensive. So like let's put for example like a Black River Park. And so like if I was to sell one of my Black River Parks, people don't understand that like, if let's use the G13 for instance. I think that park's like $2,200, $2,300 basically just for the park, but it's like $2,400, $2,500 to get it shipped to the US. And
Mhm.
so like people aren't, they'll be like, oh, you're selling this park, but the website says it's $2,300. And so why are you charging 45, 5 grand, whatever they're charging? And so like people are like, should we eat the shipping cost, even though you can't get a Black River Park
At
without
that point,
shipping? Yeah.
that's ridiculous. That's just where someone has to understand and say, oh, okay, yeah, that I understand now. That's just like a stubbornness of, well, why should I have to pay for that?
Yeah. And then so it's the secondary market is it's wild because there's no set parameters as to what is to be expected for the secondary market people basically to pay in the price. And so are they eating the shipping? Are they including the shipping? Like, I mean, there's just a lot of like the values I feel like aren't necessarily as standard as they need to be. And there's no, I don't say it should be like organized or regulated, but it's just one of those like it's the wild, wild west in the secondary market for sure.
I think for the most part, some of it affects the creator as far as like if it becomes like an ordeal where you see a Beast Pants drop, for example, and then on the FB page a week later someone's selling one. Like there's always someone posting a Beast Pants for resale, which, hey, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. I'm not complaining about it. When Chris raises his prices again, don't get mad.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, I don't even know what to tell these companies, like, is it okay to raise it because you're expecting the secondary market to literally take advantage of that situation? Or, I mean, like, it's kind of a weird thing to judge and a weird thing to, just kind of like, do you just stay at the normal price and just let the secondary market just do its own thing? Or do you not even take it in effect? I mean, it's kind of weird and kind of crazy.
I think the good example of that is Whoop Zach. I think Zach's just pretty much eliminated the whole secondary market.
With Woob,
Yeah, because
Zach with Woob.
I I can't say for certain, but I mean, okay, back in the day, Woops would sell for I think 45 or 50 bucks, which was astonishing back then. But I think now he sells them for a lot more. I mean, he doesn't advertise that, but he makes a very good deck. It's a piece of art. That's what you're paying for. But I think he's eliminated that whole secondary market. And I think at a certain point, when you see people asking 150 to $300 for a whoop, I think they're just trying to recuperate their money at that point, in a sense, which is good for Zach. I think that's great for him. I think, you know, but again, at the tail end of it, someone's going to ask $500 or $600 for their whoop they just bought, or they're gonna,
Yeah.
it's going to continue to happen. And
So you think that
you
the
know,
multiple transactions is what's driving up the price? So
yeah,
someone bought a Woob for 150 bucks. That person goes to eventually say they use it for 2 months or they have it for 2 months, whatever. And they're like, I'm going to resell it. Well, I bought it for 150. So the next guy's got to pay, 175
it,
or 200 or whatever. And then so it just
or
kind of racks it up.
just just let alone 150 for a used board, you know, like so. Then when someone buys one and says, "Wow, there's one for sale for 150," well, this one's new. I want 175 or I want 200. That's how it happens.
Hmm.
That is legitimately how it happens. It's just like if you look at classic cars, those prices go up. It's all based on demand.
Gotcha. It's literally like the housing market when I'm looking at
It
it. Like
is. It,
this 3 bedroom, 2 bath house sold for this much. So, this has got to sell for the same or higher.
that's basically the case.
That's crazy. Well, there you have it. You witnessing the secondhand market as a housing market. It's crazy.
Well, sooner than later, you're going to be paying 3 payments of 24.99 for 12 months to get a pair of Wysocki wheels. So get ready, guys.
Oh
You want a
man.
fingerboard? Give me your firstborn child. You. It's funny. I saw a video about that. Like, oh, from somebody who was at McDonald's. It's like your burger is $365. You can pay that off in 4 payments of 69, like something like that. Like that's the ridiculousness of things like that things are getting to. I mean,
That's
we'll
it's
see.
getting
I don't
crazy.
I don't foresee it happening. I mean, because again, as the market gets bigger, there's more companies. There's going to be those niches of people selling products for.
No, I'm yeah, I'm right there with you, man. It's I don't know, but do you have any upcoming projects? Anything in the woodwork?
I mean, I'm working on new deck shapes as far as like the standard popsicle shape. I'm working on different variations. Like I've done hammerheads in the past and like small runs of stuff like that, and I'm sort of bringing that to more of a production level. Depending, I'm kind of seeing how the next 6 months go. I might be re-releasing custom decks, might not. I've got a whole bunch of graphics coming out, either December or midwinter, depending again how busy I am. It's hard to set times and stuff.
No, I understand.
Uh, Wheels, right now the wheel design is pretty much set for the next year at least. Why would I change it if people like it? You know, Maybe I'll come out with another design. I guess time will tell. Like I have the ability because that's one thing you have to develop is a way of producing a product and marketing it, testing the product, all those things, and I've pretty much got down pat doing those steps in the process to get it out onto the market. It's just when is the right time for it. So yeah, maybe I could develop a product in 3 months, hold on to it for a year, 2 years, and drop it when I feel like it's ready.
That's pretty much
You
kind of
know?
where I'm at with making decks and getting drops and stuff as well. Is like I'm just working on it until I feel like it's ready to be dropped. And so I don't have a specific timeline on it, but working on
Yeah,
it day by day.
yeah. I mean, I'm always releasing new wheel colors, new graphics, new designs, for boards. There's like a slight dabble in recycled skateboard wheels, like very small. I might get into. I don't know.
If you
Uh,
get into it, there's a small group of people that would just be over the moon and back, like for some recycled wheels.
oh yeah, and I see that already. Like people like I think I saw 3 companies. Well, there's the Sad. I think it's is it pronounced Sad Dudes or
I'm
Sub
not
Dudes.
sure, but I know what you're talking about.
Then there's another one like Dude Guy. I've seen him. There's like one or two others. I can't even remember. And it's not like oh I'm gonna try to come in here and like you know compromise this or like make it. I've just there's no real difference in making like the recycle wheels versus when I used to make fingerboard wheels when I started making them out of rods. Like it's the same exact process.
Mhm.
And it's more so tailoring it now to where it would be able to be produced at a higher quality almost than
Yeah,
I mean I don't like to hate, but I see guys running them on Dremels or drills and you can do things however you want. I mean, I guess it does sound very critical of me to say you're turning wheels on a Dremel and a drill. I mean, I guess I would just be. I don't know if some guys are running it through lathes. I don't know how they're doing it. I guess I'm just building like the steps to run it on a lathe, and produce it consistently and get it to that level of where I feel like it's worthy enough to put my brand name on it and send it out, and then also warranty it.
no, I understand. Yeah, the recycle wheel market is it's pretty
They're
big, I
awesome.
think, but it's it's not really sustainable to have it available 24/7. And so there's always just like a shortage of those wheels.
Well, that's also the thing. It's not going to be like mass. I want to say mass produced because I don't mass produce my wheels, but it's not going to be like it's going to be like a drop of 10 sets or
Yeah,
20 sets or like every couple of months. Like it's more so that's something I'm dabbling in right now, and whether I'm going to do it or not, I don't know.
time will definitely tell. Man, we've talked about all kinds of stuff today.
Well, I was gonna say actually the one project I am working on with him, and we've been working on this since 20 no 2017 2018 is if I don't know, are you familiar with Homewood Fingerboards?
Yeah, yeah.
They are Justin. I'm helping him, kind of reestablish himself. He's just taking care of some things where, if you found my TikTok, I've got videos of there. Like, he's got stacks and stacks of boards we're working on and getting that out and just kind of relaunching the whole brand of Homewood. Because in my mind, starting off, Homewoods were like craftsmanship wise perfect, like amazing. Justin does an amazing job.
It's definitely
That's
an
probably like,
OG.
yeah, that's like one of the biggest projects like we've been working on for the longest time, and for 4 years it was kind of hush hush. And then I told Justin like, hey, I kind of want to start like telling people, and I get DMs all the time, hey, when's Homewood dropping? When's Homewood dropping? I'm like, it's coming. We're just not exactly sure yet. And when I know it's sure, you'll know it like a month or two in advance.
Exciting news right there. I unfortunately haven't had the opportunity to really dabble in too much of the stuff that he has. I've seen some of the stuff that he has, but I personally haven't had like anything in like my possessions where I could just kind of freely skate and session stuff. But from what the stuff that I've seen, this stuff is top notch.
hmm I've got a stack of boards that maybe release, like do a small pre-release. I think I've got like 10 of them that might come out by the time this episode drops in October. But other than that, like we're kind of working on developing like new stuff for Homewood because a lot of the stuff is new old stock. So we're working on the future now.
Gotcha. No, that makes I love it. Man, I know you've got a long line of shout outs.
Yes. First of all, I'm gonna give a shout out to some of the guys that I distribute from, good friends, people I talk to. Shout out to ASI, Timo in Germany. Awesome. I think it's Vito. Is it Vito at
Vito,
Six
yep.
Gates?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, Vito at Six Gates. Awesome guy. Yuck Skate Shop. Geraldine at Teak Tuning. Been friends with her forever. Finger Space Co. Collinwood, FB, Chems. Distribute to them. Awesome dude. Colin's cool. Bailey at Blister, awesome. I've got a review coming. Hopefully, by the time this is out, I have the review for his trucks. They're awesome, awesome guy. Double Joint, Milk, Milk Fingerboards, Michael. Squirrel Nut out in Watertown, Wisconsin. He's doing awesome things. You'll probably see more of his stuff soon. He'll probably blow up. I know he will. His stuff looks amazing. Jordan, of course, at Redemption, awesome. Todd at No Comply Fingerboards, shout out to you. And then, of course, Justin at Homewood. Look out for the return of Homewood.
And then I've actually got some shout outs as well. First off, if you guys are watching this on Patreon before everybody else, big shout out to you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you for supporting this project. And if you're not supporting us on Patreon, definitely reach over to our Patreon account, get early access. You can check out all of our Combo of the Year podcast tour, anything coming out of the USA FBL universe, basically. You can get it on our Patreon early before everybody else does. Man, Keelan, so where can people find you? Like what social media platforms, handles, where can people reach you at?
They can find me on Instagram, Red Wolf FB. Also, Wysocki Wheel or Wysocki Space Wheels on Instagram. On my website will be linked somewhere in here. Yeah, those are like the three best places you can find me. Shoot me a DM if you have any questions, concerns, comments.
Definitely. So his information, along with all of my information, will be in the description. So you'll get the links and stuff there. And then while you're at it, definitely subscribe, finger the like button. I appreciate you coming on the cast, man. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, I'm finally glad we were able to do this. We've been talking about doing this for a long time, and it was definitely great chatting with you today.
Definitely. All right, man. Until next time.
Yep, we'll see you.